So in this video, we are going to be discussing the North versus the South, what you should learn, what you should know, and, really key important factors that you should kind of factor in when you are trying to move to either region. And I'm also going to give you guys just my own experience in terms of South versus the North, because it's the disparity there is great. So as you guys know, I've lived in Texas for like literally over 20 years. That's where I was born and raised, is Houston, Texas. It was a pretty decent place, growing up, going to school. I can't say it was so bad, but just from what I've experienced, it's just not for me. I'm not a Southern girl. I don't like the country and farms and things like that. And in terms of the country people, they're not terrible beings. Some are like really pretty nice. Actually, majority of Texans, of Caucasian Texans I've met, are really nice. And I don't want to say anything to sound like so rude or anything, but it's just like Texans just, I don't know, they have their own way of viewing things. They're really stern in their ways, and they don't want to change their mind. For instance, the abortion law, like they don't think people should be getting abortions. And they speak their mind, which is very good, but they're not as considerate to others and open to other, thoughts and things that other countries may think too. So they have that very Republican mindset, which is not a bad thing, but at the same time, it's like, what the hell? Southern people there really is that Southern charm. If you meet the right people there's a Southern charm, and they're pretty nice, I would say. But Texans are also crazy. I feel like the more down south you get, like Alabama, Mississippi, all those kind of like slave regions that used to be in the freaking 1800s and places like that, like where they just have, because I'm not saying like it's not all country people are evil, or all whites are like country and racist and want their slaves on their plantation, like Paula Deen. Have I experienced a little racism? I probably have, but not one-on-one or directly. But the thing is that in terms of Texas, it's like they're just set in their ways, like with what Paula Deen wanted, in terms of having slaves on her plantation. That really bothered me. I was like, what the hell? I thought slavery was over, and the thought that, Southerners can be so charming but yet so evil is crazy. And I just feel like crazy, just the more down south you get, the more crazier it is. Like in California, there was a situation where a Mexican lady dismembered her spouse that was like helping her and her daughter pay tuition. Like crazy bizarre situations. You hear that in the South. Not saying you don't hear it in the North, but the amount of cases in the South just literally are overwhelming to me. And Texas is not exempt from that. Texas is right there. The delusion, I feel like something about the South still kind of brings back slavery, like there's some, especially like blacks, people there, they kind of like are really delusional in their brain. Like I've heard things of like cousins kissing cousins and things like that. Like, why would you kiss your cousin? And they said, I've seen situations and heard of situations where cousins thought it was all right to sleep with each other. So you hear these really crazy stories, and I'm like, is this something that was learned during slavery? Is this something that it's just still being like, I don't know what, because I think in like the slavery days, they used to have like, of course, blacks that were slaves, they'll probably have to like mate with one another so they can produce more slaves. That's what I heard too. So I'm like, I don't know if that's why it's just so cool and natural and normalized to just, like sleep with your cousin. Like, cause it's something that is like, I've heard a lot, like it's fine to kiss your cousin. It's not a problem. And I'm like, that is so disgusting. Muslim cultures, practice that as well. And Islamic cultures too. Like they're really adamant about their sons or their children marrying cousins within the actual family group. And I'm like, that is so disgusting. You don't know what you do when you do that. That leaves room for incest. And the only thing that's so negative about that is that you bring a child into this world, they're born with all these abnormalities, and the reason because of that is because when you have like two people, that are just kind of closely related in genes and hereditary and that nature, and you bring them together to mate, the chances of them creating a child with more diseases are common because they have all these things related. So it's like when you now produce a child, well, here's this child with all these abnormalities, So that's why it's when you're trying to get married, it's so important to deviate from the family, like leave such a gap, because it's just terrible, to bring the child in. And there's a psychology behind it and there's science behind it as well. This is why it's a crime in some states to do incest. And I feel like it's just the things they do in the South are just really, really disgusting. And it's nasty, like I think people were like literally brainwashed in the South, like slavery during that time. I'm not saying it still happens now, but that mentality it hasn't left yet, like it's still there, and people are still just feeling comfortable doing these disgusting things that are not good. So that was another reason why I left from the South, because I'm like, I know they say Texas is so cheap, Houston is cheap, you can get a cheap apartment, 4-bedroom, 3-bath home for $500K. I don't know. Aside from something being so cheap, it doesn't mean that it's really good. I mean, anybody knows that. If you're going to the dollar store to buy some tape, the tape quality is probably not going to be good versus you going to Home Depot and getting a really good brand of tape. So we know that definitely everything that's cheap is not always what you want to resort to. So, and same thing for expensive things too, like they say in the North is really, real expensive, but sometimes that's not worth it. Like I live right on the New Jersey, New York City borderline, and the freaking homes I see here for like $13 million are like insane. You literally get this little townhome figure, and you get many rooms inside that townhome, and they say, well, 13 million, you're in the most expensive city in the world, in the state. So this is, very, very important, that it's 13 million. I'm like, no, I would not spend 13 million on a freaking, like, even if I was a billionaire, like, no, because it's like, New York City, you have to really understand it. Like, there's so much going on in New York City. There's so many homes. And, like, it's just, I mean, for the rich people that want to do it, they can. But I'm just like, that's whack. If I'm doing that, at least give me multiple, like, mansions, And in New York City, you just get literally a tall townhome, many rooms. And that just doesn't make sense to me. So there are some cons with living in the North as well. Like, if you're a person that doesn't really, really like the cold, this place might not be good for you, because of course we're like close to Canada, and those temperatures are always colder in Canada, especially here, and that's why you see the snow. So it's just so important you definitely do understand North versus South. Like, living in the South, you can get away with paying a cheap rent, cheap mortgage, but like I said in my previous video, when they take your light, you're gonna feel miserable, because they didn't give a damn, a rat's ass, when they took our lights in February and people had to freeze to death. It didn't matter, and anything that I just don't coincide with what the governor does, I'm not staying in that state. Like, for instance, in New York City, Governor Cuomo, that was freaking touching girls in his workplace and thought he was going to get away with it, is now, has left office, and it's disgusting, and that's why I feel like I can't really live in New York. Like, it's just so much going on. Like, the thing is that the reason I do prefer the North versus the South, right, is because people here are just naturally calmer and cool. I don't know what it is. They're nicer. They're cool. And I know you guys have heard the term, the New York term, like, oh, why are you being so tight? That is a true definition and meaning here, you know, because they're so cool. They can tell when someone's tight. They can tell when someone's like, and basically what tight means is like, okay, you're angry, you're mad about something, like, or you're not having a good day, you know, and, you know, or you're upset, you know, is they'll be like, okay, why are you so tight, you know? And now I see how they can say that, because these people literally don't bother anyone. Like, literally, you mind your business. Like, in this place I live in, you know, even in North New Jersey, you have to mind, like, don't be a witness to you seeing this, or do, like, no one wants to be a party to anything here. You just do your thing, live your life, and have a good day, literally. So that's just the thing with living in the North. I mean, I've had many family members tell me, hey, you're in the wrong place, you know, get the heck out of Texas. So just those little things I mentioned earlier in this video, guys, it's, you know, I don't know what it is about the South, you know, like, I don't know if you guys watched The Bachelor, but this guy literally had a girl that was this, he was a black handsome bachelor, and he had this girl that was in the final two of the two picks that he wanted to choose, or the, you know, two, like, she was the final two in terms of like, okay, who's going to be the one I picked to be with for the rest of my life and marry. And the craziest part about that was that she posted something on her social media about country antebellum, something just praising racism and rednecks and things of that nature, like, you know, something like no blacks allowed, and we love this country culture. And Mark got wind of that and was like, okay, you know, this, you know, I was gonna choose her, but after figuring this out, yeah, it's not gonna work. And I feel like every country person still has that inner racism in them. Like, think about it. These, like, black people were enslaved. Like, Africans were enslaved in their own part of the world too. But when blacks got to America, they didn't get the free seat, you know, and just chill. They had to work for that spot. And slavery was just something that was embedded in the South, you know, and it's crazy, you know, that someone can just wake up one day and you think that, okay, well, you know, white people, they know this was in the past. They're, you know, these country people, they know they're not going to do this ever again. But some people still have that mentality. Like, I used to hear so many things in the South, like, oh, one girl will say, well, my dad used to say that the only time an N-word is useful is when he's dead. And I was like, wow, you know, like, that was pretty mean and incriminating there, you know. So the South just has their own cultures, and, you know, country people, they don't like to be told what to do. I personally, I don't have an issue with country people, but they're not the best people in the world for me to talk. I like talking to New York people. I like talking to people from the North, because they can reason at a better level. You know, they can reason at a level that's like, okay, I understand this. Yeah, I know what you mean. You know, and it's just similar. It's not similar to like what I believe, but it's just, it sounds right and it's reasonable. And in the South, you're gonna literally have someone argue their way into making you like believe that this is right and you are wrong. And they just don't want to admit when they're wrong. That's the thing in the South. It's just like, you know, like, I've still have never even received an apology for them taking the lights, nothing, you know. It's just, it's the worst. So the thing with that is just, you know, if you're willing to go through all these cultures and country cultures and being submissive, and I don't know, I just feel like the blacks that do live in the South, there's a reason for them being kind of like delusional, because they were programmed and they were trained during slavery to be like, okay, this is what you guys are gonna do, you know, this like, so that can never like leave your mentality once it's something you've been programmed with to do, to say. And that's where delusion kind of comes from, because you're thinking that something is right when it's completely wrong. And it's crazy. You do have a lot of crazy people in the South for sure. So I'm so glad I left. For instance, a situation I had with a crazy Southerner was literally, I think it was at my job. It was at my job, definitely. It was at my job. Um, she was a manager. You know, I was literally just, I think I logged in one day and was just taking, you know, doing my little call center work or whatever. It was a manager. She walked up. I mean, she was like, we were on a phone call. So she called me in the morning and was screaming at me and saying, you need to do this. You need to, you know, like, I'm like, any person that can't control how to talk to someone, you're mannerless to me, you know, and you don't have a good sense of manners. So that's something that was an issue, and told me that, you know, okay, this lady needs help. Because for you to wake up in the morning, shout at someone on over the, you know, phone headset and say, hey, you know, you're this, you know, if you hang up, this, that, you know, you're going to be fired throughout, you know, I was just like, okay, you know, and then another coworker was telling me, you know, there's some people you need to pray for. Say a good prayer for them. And I've taken that lead from then on. Like, she told me that last year, and I'm like, I still pray for people because I'm like, the worst thing you want to lose in this world is your brain. Like, literally, I'm studying psychology now in my master's program, and they're teaching us, like, if you don't use your brain, those brain cells are going to leave. There's going to be a time where you can't use it anymore. So I don't know, you know, I just feel like anyone that's going through something in life, express it, you know, in the best way you can. You know, there was another sick tragedy that happened in freaking Houston, where a guy that was dating a Hispanic girl, he was black, he freaking, you know, butchered he bought a freaking saw machine, and his girlfriend went missing, and they just couldn't find her. There was no remains of her. So when they tried to do the warrant in his home, his family members like, I don't know where he is. Where are you asking us? And it was just so scary. Like, you know, literally, this guy walked into Home Depot like it was just a normal day, you know, and literally that day they saw him get in the saw machine was the last day his girlfriend was found. It's sickening to just know that I was able to endure everything I did in Texas. I think I was just looking at it from a financial aspect, like, wow, you know, there's many people that live here. You know, Drake used to live in Houston, many stars and celebrities. It's a big city. It's one of the big cities in the world. So what's my issue? But at the same time, it's like, you can't look at it from a financial aspect if you're not happy overall. And there's so many things that just go on in Texas that's like, it's crazy. And I just would never want to be at the forefront of that. The South is literally so cool. Everyone is chill. No one is upset. Like, when I work, I'm like, I feel actually so happy. Like, when I work, I feel actually so happy and glad to work, you know, and the people are friendly. They'll say hi, hello, like strangers. So and in the South, you know, no one's looking at you. No one cares to tell you hello or hi, how are you? It's just everyone's trying to go about their way. So that difference between living in the South, those little things I've mentioned, kissing cousins really it makes me want to throw up everything I've just eaten right now. Like, what the heck? You know, I would never even think of that. Like, from where I'm from in Nigeria, if you do something like that, they are going to stone the woman to death. The woman is going to die because they're going to feel that you should have been smarter enough to know that you don't do that with your cousin, no matter what. Even if he lured you in or said you're beautiful or this or that, and nothing, you know, you should have been smarter. So they'll stone the woman to death. She is going to die. And then with the guy, he's probably just going to get like 20 beatings, like 20, you know, like with a belt or like a tree branch, and like 20 of those whips. So, and he gets to go free. So it's a serious thing from where I'm from. And I'm like, okay, this is disgusting. You know, something's wrong with the South for sure. So education's not that exciting either. There's, you know, the teachers just, it is what it is. It's jacked up. And there's no great things that I can mention about the South besides the cheapness of it. And that's basically it. But the North has just done me so well. All my family members were right in terms of leaving Texas and moving to the North. Like, another thing in the South is that, you know, of course, you get the cheap rent, you get this, but again, you have to, I don't know, you have to compensate for that in a way. Like, you know, having to deal with people that don't speak English, having to put your child in a school that's probably not safe, you know, or a private school. It's a lot of things you have to compensate for. And I don't know, anyone that's living in the South, just be careful. You're literally going to be right there on the Mexican border, so it's even dangerous there, you know, with Mexicans and bed bugs. That's another thing. You know, I hated the days of bed bugs. I still have some marks from them too. Like, it was annoying living in the South. Another thing is, like, you know, a lot of foreign people tend to just go to the South for some reason. I don't know, maybe for that cheaper way of living. And, you know, it's just like when you see like all these foreign people in one place, it's like, okay, am I really in America? You know, because they start to change things. They start to evolve and do things the way they want to do in their country. And it's like, well, you're still in America. You have to respect the culture that you live in. And, you know, that goes into jobs, that goes into doctor offices. You know, it's crazy. You have people working at the dental office that don't speak English, that have the worst attitude with you. It sucks. So I don't know. In the North, that's the thing. Now, one thing with the North, we're going to definitely discuss that now. Your rent is going to be a lot higher. Now, this is my last rent I plan to do before I do go and purchase my home, because it's a beautiful home that I really saw and I have to get it before it gets off the market. But, you know, it is going to be a little higher. So for instance, if a studio, I'm going to give an example, a studio or, no, let me do a one bedroom. A one bedroom in Houston would be right about $750 a month. This is including your utilities. This is including your rent, you know, for you living there. Then when we get into living in the North, like New York, Maryland, or New Jersey, your rent is actually going to skyrocket to right about $900 to $1,000 for a one bedroom. So what is that, like $200 more? Yeah. So, and you just pay a little bit more for it. The South doesn't have rats, but they do have bed bugs. The North, they have gigantic rats, as you guys know about. Not Maryland, but like New Jersey and New York. Their issue here, their pest control issue is rats. They have to seal out the places to ensure that rats are not finding a way to enter. Like literally 2 days ago, I saw like a fat rat downstairs and I was like, oh my God. You know, it was like literally by the gate. I was like, gross, yuck. So that's just something I wanted to point out there. In terms of qualifying for an apartment, you do need to qualify for one here when you live in the North. It's not like the South where you can just say, well, how much is the rent? Okay, here's my pay stubs. Here's my little deposit. When can I move in and get the keys? No, ma'am. You have to have good credit to rent an apartment, and this is terms of qualifying. Like my last nightmare apartment rental that you guys should check out in this next clip. You will see how disgusting it was. And guys, I had to have good credit to even live there. And I'm like, this is not even worth my credit score. Like, why am I living here? This is dumb. So it was really disgusting. But yes, you do need to have good credit. If you don't have good credit, they can't trust you to pay your rent. And that's another hurdle you have to come through when you're living in the North. So that's why I just determined it's best to buy my house. Like, no more rent for me. I'm reaching that age in life where I'm like, I want my privacy. I want my parking garage. I don't want to be throwing out thousands of dollars a year in rent when it can go to my property taxes, when it can go to, you know, my mortgage, getting that paid off. It's just not useful in paying rent. Like literally in the North, you have to do $1,000 each month. So you calculate that in a year, that's 12 grand that you just gave out. You know, this could have went to your mortgage and decreased that loan amount that you have to pay back. or interest, you know, on your home. And it's like you just gave it away, you know, but that's just one thing, you know. And then another thing about the South is that you do get a wide variety of food places to eat at, like Whataburger, you know, they have those kind of places there. Taco Cabana, oh my God, I used to love eating their flautas. You get all those great variations in the South, but as you move to the North, I'm like, there's none of that. No Whataburger. You do get Chick-fil-A. I think you get Five Guys as well, Chipotle, you know, all those normal fast food staples. So you just have to know exactly what works for you and what you do want to do. I made the decision after attending college and I wanted to further my education, let me try a different state. Let me try a state where they're not going to turn off my lights and leave me in the dark for 3 days in a row, you know? So that was something that I did, and I don't regret it. It was a very, very good decision. So, you know, and in terms of the parking as well, that's something I do want to address. When you drive in the North, it's like the roads are a little bit smaller in comparison to the South. Parking, you have to learn how to parallel park. You know, thankfully my vehicle has a rear view camera, which is great, because I don't like parallel parking, but it's something that you have to learn living in the North, because they don't have parking for everyone. You know, it's a small state, it's not like Texas. So you have to really curtail your way of where you go and things like that. So that was something I had to get acclimated to, but you know, there's a lot of highways and everything, so it's pretty nice. It's decent. It's not the worst place to live in, and it is better than Texas. So guys, let me know what you guys think of living in, have you lived in the South, or what was your impression living in the South versus the North? What didn't you like in the South? Like, I know one thing I didn't like in the South was seeing so many foreigners that didn't speak English. At times I would feel like, okay, I'm not in America. I'm probably in a crazy version of Mexico or something like that, because I'm like, this whole place changed, you know, and you know, that's the best thing to do, is just become a homeowner. You know, if you're a homeowner, you don't have to worry about the loud Spanish music, somebody's not having manners and scratching your car, someone, you know, like things like that. You just have that autonomy in life that you really want. And yeah, that's basically it. So let me know what you guys think of the South versus the North. What were some things you like? What were some things you dislike? And let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you so much for tuning in.